It started with the sound of sirens. Red and blue lights flashing across the half-drained swamp behind my house, mud up to my knees, hands shaking, and Karen Hernandez, our self-appointed HOA president, screaming at the cops to arrest me. "That's him! He destroyed community property!" she shouted, finger pointed straight at my face. I remember standing there, soaked and stunned, thinking how the hell did it come to this? A few weeks earlier, things were quiet, peaceful even. My name's David McMichael. I moved to Maple Ridge to get away from city chaos to enjoy my little slice of calm, a modest house with a big yard backed by a swamp that everyone said belonged to the HOA. It was ugly, mosquito-infested, and smelled like rotten eggs after the rain. I didn't mind it at first until it started creeping closer to my fence, swallowing my garden bit by bit. When my dog Max came home one morning covered in green sludge, I decided enough was enough. I called the county office to ask if someone could drain or treat it. Their answer surprised me. That area isn't listed as public land. Might be private property. That got me thinking. So I dug through the dusty box of old documents the previous owner left behind, and buried beneath receipts and yellowed photos I found an old hand-drawn survey map from 1976. The ink was faded, but the lines were clear enough that swamp wasn't HOA land at all. It was part of my property. I remember laughing. For years, everyone just assumed the swamp was communal because it looked wild and untouched. But technically, it was mine, all 1.2 acres of it. So I rented a pump, grabbed some boots, and got to work. It was messy, exhausting, but it felt good. Like reclaiming something that had been forgotten. That's when she showed up. Karen. Mid-50s blonde hair sprayed into immobility pastel blazer sunglasses even when it was cloudy. She leaned on my fence like she owned the place. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped. "Cleaning up my property," I said. "That's not your property," she shot back. "That's protected HOA land. You're violating environmental law." I laughed, probably not the smartest move. "Karen, this swamp isn't protected. It's full of trash and mosquitoes." She squinted at me, lips tight. "We'll see about that." 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail stamped with the HOA logo, "Cease all drainage activity immediately." I wasn't even part of the damn HOA, but the tone was threatening. So I called the county again, filed a request for updated records, and kept working. That's when the sirens came. Karen had called the cops claiming I was destroying wetlands. The officer stepped out of his cruiser, clearly confused. "Sir, can you show me proof of ownership?" he asked. I pulled the old deed from my folder, but before I could explain, Karen jumped in again, ranting about community assets and environmental crimes. The officer radioed dispatch to check the property lines. Karen smirked, arms folded, ready to see me cuffed. But then the radio crackled, "That area's private land. Belongs to the homeowner at 1827 Maple Ridge." The look on her face was priceless, pure shock, wrapped in disbelief. The officer handed me back the papers and said, "You're within your rights, sir." Karen stormed off, muttering something about lawsuits. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. That was just round one. The next morning, she came back with reinforcements, 2 HOA board members, and a man in a suit. They hammered a wooden sign into the ground near the swamp, "HOA Protected Wetlands." "No trespassing." I walked over, wiping sweat off my forehead. "You know that's illegal, right?" I said. Karen smirked. "You can't fool the community, Mr. McMichael. The HOA doesn't take kindly to rule breakers." I tried to ignore her, but that night I noticed her car parked down the street lights off engine idling. She was watching. The next day, an old neighbor named Mr. Lawson stopped by, leaning on his cane. "You're doing good work, son," he said. "That swamp used to be part of the Jenkins farm before the HOA even existed. Folks just forgot." His words gave me hope. Maybe I wasn't crazy. A week later, I got the official survey back. It confirmed the swamp was entirely mine. I wanted to rub it in her face, but instead, I waited. And sure enough, she came storming down my driveway with 3 board members and that same lawyer. "You'll be hearing from us in court," she said. I smiled and handed her the fresh survey. "No need. You already lost." The lawyer's expression fell as he read the document. "Karen, he's right," he muttered. Her face turned red. "You'll regret this," she hissed before stomping off. That night I did start to regret it, but not because she was right. I woke up to a chemical stench so strong it burned my nose. When I went outside, the swamp water had turned a strange yellow-green. Floating near the edge were several containers labeled pond cleaner, not for public use. Someone had dumped chemicals. I collected the containers, bagged them up, and took them straight to the county environmental office. They promised to test them. When I got home, guess who was waiting at my gate, Karen, phone in hand, fake sweet smile plastered on her face. "Morning, neighbor," she said. "I hear there's been some contamination behind your house. Shame if someone thought you were behind it." I stared at her. "You've got nerve. Those chemicals were traced back to you." Her smirk faltered for just a second. You can't prove that she snapped. "Maybe not yet," I said. "But the county can." Days passed. The county called the chemicals were purchased under her name. I thought justice would finally shut her down. But instead, she doubled down. Drones started flying over my yard. HOA inspectors showed up uninvited, and one night I caught two shadows moving near my garage. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. It was Karen, and with her, a tall man I recognized from HOA meetings, Richard Daniels, the vice president. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. Voice cold. "I'm maintaining my property," I replied. "Not for long." He pulled a gun from his jacket. Karen gasped. "Daniels, stop," but he aimed at me. My heart nearly exploded. "Back up," he ordered. "You don't understand how deep this goes." Max growled low. My hands trembled around the baseball bat I kept by the door. "You're trespassing," I said. Daniels sneered. "You think anyone's going to believe you over us?" Then Max lunged. The gun went off. The bullet tore through the garage siding, sparks flying. I swung the bat, hitting Daniels square in the arm. He stumbled back, cursing, and Karen screamed. I grabbed her hand and ran for the truck. We sped off down the gravel road as headlights appeared behind us, more cars, more board members. We ended up at the county sheriff's office, mud-soaked and breathless. I slammed the metal box I'd grabbed from my garage onto the counter. Inside were old rusted files I'd dug up near the swamp paperwork from the 1970s showing forged land deeds. "Someone tried to kill us for this," I said. The sheriff, an older man named Holcomb, studied the papers quietly. "These are serious accusations," he said. Karen spoke softly. "Daniels is behind it. He's been covering up a land fraud since the beginning." The sheriff nodded. "We'll look into it. You two should stay put." But later that night, Karen wouldn't calm down. "You don't know him like I do," she whispered. "He has people everywhere." I told her to rest. She stared at the window. "My husband tried to expose this 30 years ago. He drowned in that swamp. They called it an accident." That was the first time I saw her break. Not the smug HOA queen, but a woman living in fear for decades. She said, "Promise me one thing, if anything happens to me, don't stop digging." The next morning she was gone. Her purse, her phone, all gone, just a note on the table. "Don't come looking for me." The sheriff called a few hours later saying everything was under control. His tone was too smooth, too calm. I didn't believe him. I went through the documents again that night and found something taped to the bottom, a photo of the original developers shaking hands. One of them was Daniels. Another was Sheriff Holcomb. On the back, the year 1979. And the words, "The deal is done." That's when I knew the whole county was in on it. I packed the box, grabbed Max, and drove straight to the courthouse. Halfway there, a black SUV appeared in my mirror. Same one from the night of the attack. It followed every turn. My stomach dropped. When I pulled into an old gas station to lose them, the SUV blocked me in. The sheriff stepped out calm as ever. "David," he said, hand over the box. "You don't understand what you've uncovered." "Then explain it," I said, backing up. He sighed. "That land under Maple Ridge was used as a dumping site for industrial waste. We built over it. If this goes public, hundreds lose their homes. The town collapses. I'm protecting people." I stared at him. "You're protecting yourself." Before his men could move, a silver sedan screeched into the lot. "Karen," she yelled. "Get in." I didn't think I just ran. We tore down the road with the SUV in pursuit. They said you were gone, I shouted. They lied, she said, and I've got proof. She handed me a folder, copies of soil test results from 1979, stamped confidential. They built the whole neighborhood on poison, she said. If we get this to the press, they can't bury it again. But the sheriff wasn't giving up. Up ahead, flashing lights a roadblock. Behind us, the SUV closed in. We're trapped, I said. Not yet, she muttered, jerking the wheel toward the woods. We crashed through trees, bullets shattering the rear window. The creek appeared ahead. We jumped out, clutching the box running through knee-deep water. We hid under a fallen log as flashlights swept across the creek. Karen whispered, "There's an old maintenance shack near the bridge. My husband used to work there. We can make it." We ran. The bridge groaned under our weight. The SUV broke through the trees behind us. "Go," she yelled. "I'll hold them off." "What?" "No, David, please. If they catch both of us, no one will ever know." She shoved the box into my hands and turned back toward the creek. I reached the shack and looked back just in time to see her standing in the water facing them. The sheriff's voice echoed, "It's over." "Karen." She said something I'll never forget. "You can't bury the truth forever." Then the gunshot. Her body fell, the current pulling her away. I stayed hidden until dawn. When I came out, the world was quiet again, too quiet. I still had the box, and her words. Don't stop digging. I turned the evidence over to the state authorities. Within days, the story exploded. Maple Ridge HOA built on toxic waste scandal. The EPA moved in. Crews in hazmat suits dug up rusted barrels from beneath the swamp. The sheriff's office burned down mysteriously that same week, faulty wiring, they said. Daniels disappeared. They called it justice. But standing there watching the land stripped bare, I didn't feel like I'd won. The swamp was gone, replaced by a fenced-off crater of mud and secrets. I looked out over the emptiness where it all began and whispered, "We did it, Karen." Because sometimes fighting back isn't about victory. It's about refusing to stay buried.